All right, welcome back. You're watching The Money Show, and this is where we get you to dream a little bit. You know, the COVID 19 pandemic, the latest Omicron variant of the COVID 19 virus, all of this are putting paid to travel plans and vacation plans for a lot of you. And what that means is that you've got a bucket list that keeps getting longer and longer. And every week, we want you to think about a new place that you can visit when everything gets back to normal. It gives me pleasure to introduce my next guest, Ankita Kumar, who is a travel content creator and a popular vlogger. Thank you so much, Ankita, for taking the time. We're going to talk about a place that you visited not too long back, I think, Brazil. What made you choose it as a destination first? How did you get there, and what stood out to you?
I think the biggest reason that I wanted to see Brazil was because that was going to be the carnival time. And I've been dreaming about visiting the carnival because it's full of colors and full of madness and chaos and music and dance and like everything fun that you can imagine, right? And the fact was that it was very far, right? Like Brazil is like, it takes you like a while to get there, like a total of 24 hours to get there. So I was like, if I'm going there, let me just do like a couple of months there. So I actually went there for 2 months. But yeah, I think the carnival was like the biggest attraction for me. Um, and so was like the food and the culture and all of that.
About all of these aspects, because this is something that is so exciting. As a football lover, Ankita, I've always been so enamored by Brazil, and their culture has so much to do with football as well. They all love it so much, right?
Yeah,
Um,
there would be little kids, like 2 year, 3 year olds, like dribbling and like balancing the football on their fingers and heads and stuff. It was crazy.
yeah. And there's dance, the samba, the kizomba, and so many other things. But let's talk about logistics first, right? Where did you land? And you said that it's a long flight. So I'm guessing because it's so far away, you should budget for at least 3 weeks that you spend in Brazil. What are the various places that you would recommend that somebody should go in Brazil?
So I booked my tickets pretty like long. I mean, long before the trip started because I feel that that way you at least saving a chunk of money on the tickets, right? Which I feel is like a huge waste of money according to me because you can use that money in so many like better ways, right? Once you get to the place. So I feel like booking tickets way in advance is the way to go. So I got like about the round trip ticket from Bombay, Sao Paulo, and back was about 80,000, and that is cheap, so you can imagine like what the expensive side of it could be. So yeah, definitely book the tickets in advance, and I would suggest landing in Sao Paulo or Rio was turning out to be a little bit more expensive, so I decided on Sao Paulo instead. And I would suggest that if you have say a 3 week itinerary, I would definitely suggest land in Sao Paulo, do Rio, and then head to the northeastern side of Brazil, which is the Bahia region. So that has a lot of like African influence. It has a lot of like African culture and beautiful, beautiful beaches. So I would definitely suggest if you have 3 weeks, head to that side. So you can do Fortaleza, you can do this place called Recife, you can do this place called Jericoacoara, which is like these white sand dunes, and there are these like pristine blue water in the middle, so you can like dune bash there and all of that. Then Jericoacoara, and then you can do Pipa, which is like a small jungle beach sort of a place, which is very hidden. Not too many people do it, but I genuinely like. I had gone there for like 2 days, and I ended up staying like 10 days. So I would definitely suggest Pipa as like a little hidden gem. So yeah, I think these are the places I would definitely suggest in Brazil.
I want to come to the money part of it also because I see you said that you were there for 2 months and you were mostly in the northeastern part of Brazil. And you said Bahia is where you spent a lot of time. You spent roughly 3.5 lakhs. And this is seeming incredible for me because you spent 2 months there. And that's not really a lot of money if you think about it, right? In the larger context of things. So, am I right in assuming then that you don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money in Brazil to have a good time?
Yeah, I definitely think so because also it kind of depends on what kind of accommodation, what kind of travel you're doing. Because I actually did very budget accommodation, but I flew to a lot of places within Brazil because the tickets within Brazil are quite cheap. So it's expensive to get to Brazil, but once you get there, I think it's pretty reasonable. Food is super cheap. If you're good with like local food, then that's the best thing to do. And honestly, Bahia has some of the most yummiest food I had in Brazil because it sort of has like an Indian kind of palate, like because it's like in the it's along the coast. It has like bits of coconut curry and like a little bit of spice and seafood. So yeah, if you can like budget your accommodation and your food, then I think you're set. And actually I went in a pretty expensive time because I went during the Christmas, during New Year's, and during the pre-carnival time. So I actually went in the expensive time, so you can do it for even cheaper if you want to.
Seems to be the time to visit Brazil because the carnival is something to see. But you mentioned that you traveled within Brazil a lot by taking flights. Is there a reason why you did that, or is it simply the best way to travel in Brazil?
It's actually like a super massive country, Brazil.
Yeah.
So yeah, even though I had 2 months there, it seemed like nothing because the distances between places were too much. So I would definitely, you can do it by bus, but it just takes a much longer time. So I would definitely suggest flights.
Talk about some of the other things. The Amazon rainforest is there. Would you suggest anything to do with that? Because that's certainly something that you wouldn't want to miss. Of course, ecologically speaking, there are a lot of conversations that are ongoing about conserving that forest. But as a visitor, is there something that you can do there?
I would definitely. So the thing is, why I didn't do the Amazon rainforest, though I would have loved to, was because I've already done the Amazon rainforest in Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador. So I was like, okay, let me take a little bit of a break from the Amazon rainforest and let's like explore the culture side of Brazil. So that is the reason why I kind of didn't do the Amazon rainforest, because there was culturally so much happening there, right, with the carnival and everything. But if you would like to go to the rainforest, then definitely there are like a lot of beautiful experiences you can have. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't know much to say about it because I haven't done it myself.
I'm guessing if you saw the Amazon rainforest in those other countries, then it's essentially the same. So the experience, I'm guessing, would be phenomenal. Having said that, you spoke about the cultural experience, right? Which is, it's so rich, it's so colorful, it's so beautiful. So talk a little bit about what you would find there, the various dance forms that you would find, the food. You mentioned a little bit about what you would find, but would a vegetarian be okay going there, for example, and would they find enough to eat?
No, I wouldn't really say that. I mean, I guess like big cities, yes, because big cities have a lot of vegetarian cafes, they have a lot of vegan cafes and stuff. So you'd be fine in a Sao Paulo, you'd be fine in a Rio. But Brazil is a primarily like meat eating country. Like they have this thing called feijoada and farofa, especially in Bahia, which is basically meat cooked with black beans, right? So it's that is like staple. So that is what like a usual Brazilian meal would consist of. But yeah, like I said, on the coast you can have a lot of seafood and all of that. In terms of dances, actually carnival was really cool because they have these like big trucks where people just load up with like musicians and all of that, and everybody, like the public, follows these trucks, right? So and each truck has a different kind of music on. So one would maybe have like the samba on, another music would have like Brazilian funky music on, so that kind of stuff. So you can choose whichever music you want and then follow that kind of that setup.
The picture that you're painting is so incredible, and you can almost imagine a carnival right now. I can imagine it in my head, but I want to also know about the people. I'm guessing that there's a lot of influence of the kind of people that have come, the colonials that have over a period of time had their influence over there. So what are the people like?
So like I said, so Brazil, what interestingly has, there's no single, like there's not a look that Brazil has. You know what I mean? Like when you see people from India, you kind of know that they're Indian. When you see people from say other countries, you would kind of get a sense. But Brazil is a mixed pot. Like I could be Brazilian, you could be, anybody could be Brazilian, because they're so mixed. Because Portugal kind of like colonized Brazil, but they didn't have enough manpower because Brazil is massive. So they used to get slaves from countries like Congo and a lot of African countries. So you see a lot of African influence in the Bahia region, which is where I was. But then you start moving south and you start seeing people look more like look different. So every part of Brazil I feel had a very different look. So you can't really look at anybody and be like, okay, I know what a Brazilian looks like, because it's such a huge melting pot. And also I think it's one of the most progressive countries that I've ever been to. A lot of like LGBTQI plus movements happening, especially in Sao Paulo. I saw my first like drag performance on the street. So I think that way also it was very like, it was really amazing to see that kind of progressive culture.
Language, do people understand, or is it easy to communicate in Brazil?
Again, in the cities, yes, because it's way more like cosmopolitan. So you get a lot of foreigners. They're used to like people speaking in English and not knowing Portuguese. But in the interior parts, like for instance, say a Pipa or a Recife and stuff, they wouldn't really know any language but Portuguese. And Brazilian Portuguese is very different from the Portugal Portuguese. And they would also have very different dialects and accents and all of that. So even if I did pick up like a bit of Portuguese in Sao Paulo, it would be completely different in a Fortaleza. So yeah, I would definitely suggest that when you go to places like these, pick up from the locals, like pick up those words from the locals, things that you might find it easier to use in like daily language, like pick up those words in that place, because you might just find like a difference in each place of Brazil that you're going to as well.
You seem to have used your 2 months very, very effectively, and you've learned quite a bit from what I can tell, Ankita. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for painting that lovely picture. It's certainly something that I will consider doing, going to Brazil.
You must, Alex. You definitely must.